I am more productive when I'm traveling by train because I can really focus on my stuff when I'm sitting on the train. Because on the flight, what happens is like you're constantly on the go, and then it's not like from door to door. You need to go to the airport, prepare for the security check. You need to walk to the boarding gate, and then you sit at a very tight seat because they are just packing us like a little
sardines.
I don't know, like exact sardines, exactly. And then it's impossible. It's impossible. It's constant struggle. Air travel is constant struggle. With train, I just get to the Umeå Central Station, and then if I'm going to Berlin, I end up at Berlin Central Station.
Do you have a point in space in your life where you say, oh, okay, here I made a shift from my traditional design way of seeing things or thinking into more of a sustainability strategy? What was it that inspired you to shift? And then the second one is also you founded this Code21 Climate Solutions.
I think it was very early on. I was working in jewelry industry. And I'm not talking about, I did work in that like a jewelry craftsmanship. But then later I started working in this really like industrial production of mass production of like this like bam, 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 like a fashion oriented jewelry. It's more like things that you would just sell in these department stores and constantly seasonally changing stuff. And there I started questioning, like, because industrial design is about meeting the needs of people, right? Like you find a problem and then you start finding a solution to that problem. That's the basic thing that you learn at school. And then when I was working in this place, I realized, am I really meeting a need or am I creating a need, a kind of like an artificial need? Because you see that in the fashion industry a lot, like it's not about literally just giving this person a warm clothing so that they can protect themselves. It's more about making them feel like they're missing out, making them feel like they don't have enough. And then create that need and this create that appetite for buying more. So a lot of designers who are concerned about sustainability already know that. Like there are moments when we feel like we are dirty because of the things that you produce, right? You just feel like, oh my gosh, what have I done? What is this project? So you go through these moments. Then it was more about a decision. A colleague of mine, he wanted to create this platform of designers who can use their design capacity to make climate solutions and sustainable solutions more attractive and more desirable. It was more like let's make a platform of designers, and then we kind of make conceptual designs to show that a desirable sustainability is also possible. So we were kind of we made a really good actually team. Like there was international. We were working on concept projects. I worked on for example, project that was related to food systems, farming, regenerative farming, and such. And then COVID came and everything became very silent. Everybody started to become very much concerned about their own problems and issues, right?
Yeah.
And then that time I decided to take a sabbatical and literally go back to school and study sustainability. So, and that's exactly around the time when also with this colleague of mine, we decided to found Code21 together, the Climate Solutions. So it was kind of like in parallel, like I started studying sustainability and we found this company.
Where do you study about sustainability? I have here Bleking?
Yeah, Bleking Institute of Technology. So there they had this program, a short-term program called Green Transition Strategy. and that is about how do you help companies, businesses, or any kind of organization to create a sustainable vision, and then help them to create a roadmap and strategy to transform into sustainable into a sustainable organization. So that was one thing. But I also thought, okay, that's my education gap year. I'm going to use this year for like just absorbing whatever I can take. So I also did like a small another course in Uppsala University in the agricultural studies, like some agricultural politics, for example. I took a course about, and then I took another course about how to integrate social sustainability in product development processes, circular economy, like all of these was some like that it was a time period when everything was paused in COVID, right? So I thought it would be really good timing for just absorbing and taking in whatever I could and use that as an opportunity for myself. Yeah.
And still, you are working with this Code21 Climate Solutions, right?
Well, we do partner when there's a project coming in, but at the
Okay.
moment, because it's in the Netherlands and I live in Sweden now, so now I have started my own design studio. Like it's one
Okay.
person studio, it's one generation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's now what I'm doing. I'm doing the same type of work in one generation. And mostly, most of my time is spent in health tech, industry,
Okay.
healthcare. And what I'm doing is I work as a design strategist, and meaning, again, doing the research and translating all that research into the values, creating values, and combining it with the business strategy, and then also integrating sustainability into the whole value propositions, and understanding how the whole entire life cycle can be affected. Yeah.
When did you start the One Generation Studio? And could you share, like, maybe if there's a company that you are collaborating right now, if that's possible?
I'm working with Philips Healthcare. Yeah.
Okay.
I worked with a also 2 years ago with a solar cell company in Sweden that's called Midsummer. They do work solar panels on the roofs. And then, yeah, with them, it was more about really writing their impact report with a colleague of mine whom I met at school studying green transition strategy. In Code21, we did work for a museum in the Netherlands to design an exhibition in a sustainable and climate positive way. But also we did come up with some strategies to also transition the museum into more sustainable and climate positive direction. Everything from how they design the exhibition elements to how they do their operations or the museum shops, what do they message in their website and such. Then we did work with an investment bank in the Netherlands who wanted to understand. Actually, the idea was they wanted to inspire fashion companies to be more sustainable as an investment bank. And then in the project, we first identified the problems, like what is the impact of fashion companies and fashion industry in the climate, into the environment, in the society. And it turned out that it's a lot. It's a very negative impact that is very difficult to change. It is also very much a very complex supply chain that is also difficult to follow and trace. we did come up with some suggestions and some strategic value propositions, but at the end, the investment bank also decided to completely not to invest in fashion industry, with giving the message that they should really become more sustainable.
There's this very interesting Netflix documentary called Buy Now. I'm sure you have
about the
oh my God,
fast fashion. Yeah.
And I have some friends from Nigeria. They live right now in the UK, and there is a part where they show some areas in Nigeria where they are full of fashion trash, like clothes, and it's like mountains and mountains in there. And I was asking them, like, is this real? Like, you are from there? Like, yeah, that's real. And it's insane. It looks like someone did that with AI. Like, you cannot believe how big is the impact that they're having. And as they mentioned in this documentary, is that the people that is experiencing the negative impact are the ones that are not even benefit from there.
Yeah.
Like the big countries, they're good with that. And then all the trash and all the negative impact, all the pollution is going to a society where they are just forgotten about that.
Yeah. No, that's very true. That's very true. Like, and there are good companies too. Like, there are companies who are now refurbishing even shoes and then selling them back. It is happening. But I think the biggest idea, the biggest solution is do not consume. That's it. Like, you don't have to buy that much. Right? That's the biggest solution. Yeah.
And how do you apply, like you are saying right now, this one kind of a tip of how to live a more sustainable, but how do you apply a sustainable lifestyle into this world of consumerism? I remember a teacher from Australia. He was very aware of sustainability and also equality when it came to work and regulations, how they were being treated. And he told me, I don't buy things from Amazon Australia because I know that the people that it's working there are treated very badly. And then I was telling him, but how do you buy stuff online? I don't. I just go to my locality stores and my local stores, and then I will get stuff from there. And then another friend from France that I met in Umeå, and she was telling me, I don't have an iPhone, and recently they released some news about how Microsoft was using their data, and she was saying like, oh no, now I have to jump to Linux. And they're like, why don't you just buy a typewriter and that's it? And she was like, yeah, I wish I could get a typewriter. So
yeah, it's impossible almost sometimes. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. It takes so much effort. And then when you live alone, it's easy because then the consequences are happening to you. For example, using trains when it comes to flights, for example. So, and train is not necessarily the cheapest option, the cheaper option. I am more productive when I'm traveling by train because I can really focus on my stuff when I'm sitting on the train. Because on the flight, what happens is like you're constantly on the go, and then it's not like from door to door. You need to go to the airport, prepare for the security check. You need to walk to the boarding gate, and then you sit at a very tight seat because they are just packing us like a little
sardines.
I don't know, like exact sardines, exactly. And then it's impossible. It's impossible. It's constant struggle. Air travel is constant struggle. With train, I just get to the Umeå Central Station. And then if I'm going to Berlin, I end up at Berlin Central Station, right? City to city, door to door.
Yeah.
And I can I can sleep on the train. I use it like a hotel. I can sleep, I can work, I can read, I can do anything and completely focus. Like there's no like a sweaty transitional moments. And then coming to how do we help companies to make their products train friendly? For example, when I switched most of my travels to train, it was very difficult for me to find a suitable suitcase because all the suitcases are made for either the cabin size or The next coming one is the extremely large one that is for check-in baggage, which is impossible to carry on the train. The cabin one is very small. I can't travel with that cabin one because then it means I have to carry a lot of stuff in my backpack, which means it's going to be painful. But also the check-in one is really large. So then again, how do I help? For example, if I'm working in a suitcase company, or if I'm doing a project for a suitcase company, then my focus would be like, how do you help the society to transition to sustainable lifestyle? Like, how do you help them to use train? How are your products train friendly, or are they only made for aircraft, right? The air travels. So it's one of the things, again, like you can consider a lot of things that are made for bike friendly bags, bike friendly other things. Like, again, like, how do you make your products that help the society to transition to sustainability?
From your experience that we have seen that is quite broad, and also that expanded quite a lot through COVID towards more topics. I was looking at that you were a member of Eve Design Awards. Is there any trend that kind of caught your attention from what they were presenting, or a way in which you were saying, "Oh, this is an interesting approach"? How new designers are seeing sustainability applied into our society?
Yeah, I think one thing that I really like in IF Design Award, when I joined the jury sessions there, is that they have a very good judgment criteria, and also one of the criteria is like is sustainability. They really want to know how sustainable the product is, and it could mean like just eco-design, simple eco-design principles, right? Like it could be circularity, it could be material reduction, it could be recyclability and such, or energy in use, like you reduce the energy that is needed, that is consumed while you're using the product. But I also see sometimes very brilliant products that are made to retrofit, meaning, for example, if it's a very old system that you have invested in your talking about hospital environments, it's a very old system that you have invested in your hospital environment, and then they kind of like create this tiny little solution that you can just adapt, attach to it, and then it makes it digital, for example, right? Yeah, it helps this huge product to become much more technologically advanced by just adding this tiny little addition to it. And that is also very sustainable in terms of like as a hospital, they don't have to get rid of this huge bulky machine and then buy a new one. They can just buy this new edition to just upgrade it to a better technologically advanced solution, and that is also sustainable.
It is not about, hey, throw away that because you don't need it. No, you have that. Let's make let's hack the structure of what you have already, and let's just make it better. And that's cool. That looks nice, and it feels good, and you can keep having it for a longer time.
Forever.
Forever. Yeah. Ideally.
Yeah, that's I mean, coming back to the fashion industry again, like I do hack my mom's clothes, for example. Like every now and then when I go to visit her, I'm just like going through her old stuff, and then like I'm taking this and then bring it back home, and then I just repair this part and then change this part, hack it a little bit, and then you have a new set of clothes. Yeah.
I have a quote that I stole from your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And it says, it was a unique experience shared with beautiful colleagues and friends, and very inspiring to witness the great level of awareness, craftsmanship, and diversity of the students. Thank you, IF, for this amazing organization again. Here, it was curious to me. What do you mean by awareness?
I think in the projects that I saw in the jury sessions, it was very obvious that every student was trying to make the world a better place. And then they had to pick a problem area for themselves. And then knowing, and the problems that they picked for themselves were not like superficial problems. They were really real problems. And the awareness comes first from understanding what exists as an issue in in the world, but also around them, but also not coming up with these also again superficial fixes. Some of the qualities of the projects. Some of the projects were very good quality in terms of understanding what would really help them help to solve the issue, what is the core of the problem, and how they could really resolve it, not in a mental way only, but also with the crafts, using their crafts. So that was very nice in terms of understanding first, identifying the problem, understanding how to resolve it, but also awareness of what they can add into that from their own personal also quality too, in terms of like as a designer, they also add a little bit of more aesthetic understanding into that, or the way they solve it is different than other people's solution. So it's awareness of also their own impact on that on the problem.
And I'm imagining that then you don't develop awareness from just looking at social media and Pinterest, because that's just about style and something that is already filtered. So how can we really improve our awareness practice in the design field?
I think we should always be an observer. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. I Coming back to, for example, of course, I'm not going to say everybody should travel, but coming back to, for example, your question about also traveling, right? I think the importance is not being a tourist and kind of like being a consumer in a place where you go. The importance is that participating the life and participating day to day lifestyle, meeting people, understanding how they live, understanding what they do, and then really being very observant and open to everything, not being in a very isolated environment. Of course, you need to isolate yourself sometimes when you need to focus, but that's the quality of the designer, being very open and observant and absorbing everything. And then when it comes to really just self-reflection mode, completely closing yourself in focus mode. It's kind of like this jumping in and out constantly. That's I think, a good way of increasing your awareness. Like I observe a lot of things, and then I come back to my own inner world. I reflect back to it. It's also like self-awareness and understanding how you can really make a change. If you can make a change, sometimes you cannot. And then you also become aware of that. That's also another thing, right? You can't change everything. You can't have impact on everything. So that's one thing I can really tell. I mean, my way of, I'm not going to say it works for everyone. My way of increasing my awareness is not only consuming the mass media, but I do have subscriptions to scientific journals. I do read a lot of sociologists, evolutionary psychologists, like a lot of social sciences. Like it's really good to broaden your perspective outside of your own profession, to really kind of enrich your understanding and your grasping of the world, like what's really existing in the world, like and then why do people behave this way? Because it's people make choices and people behave in ways really as a reaction to certain things changing in their environment, right? So it's important to really be open to that as well.
Yeah. In a way, when we are just looking into design stuff, we end up designing for designers. And when we look into the world, we are designing for people, which is what we are meant to be doing, actually.
Mm. Mm. What I really like about UID is, or any kind of design concepts that we consume in Pinterest or other design portals. One thing that we still need to know or remind ourselves that certain concepts do come back in life. Like there were so many projects that I witnessed when I was a student, people made, and they didn't exist as products. And then 10 years later, they exist as products. Now everybody's using them. Back then it was like, really? Like, do you think people would use this? And then now, 10 years later, like everybody is using them. Everybody is using them, right? So, so there is still a value in being inspired by the other designers in terms of understanding, like, what can be, right? What can be done, what can be created. There's still a good value in that.
Hey, this is just a very short pause, and right after I finish sharing this message, we will jump back into the interview. So I hope you're enjoying the second part of this fun and insightful conversation with Ceren Bagatar. If you are, I would really appreciate if you could like the video, share it, comment something, and subscribe to the channel. And basically that's it. Now let's get back to the conversation. For students and early career designers, or even for with more years of experience, that they want to fuse design with the sustainability and climate responsibility, what skills or mindsets are most valuable today that they should look to develop or try to learn?
I do always recommend life cycle thinking when you design, when you're sitting and just about to start designing your product. It's not only about how you launch. It's not about how you launch that thing. It's about really designing the whole entire life cycle, which would actually also help to design about its service, the service around your product too, right? Like, how do you design the product itself? How do you design the service around your product that is made to maintain and use it for a long term, if possible? And then also looking at the whole entire life cycle, like how are the users interacting with it? How are they going to be impacted by your product? Are there any also negative impacts on the users? How are they going to maintain it, clean it, keep it, store it? How are they going to upgrade it if possible? How are they going to throw it away or recycle it? Like, what's going to happen throughout the whole entire life cycle should be already embedded in the very beginning, because that also helps you to really have a broader perspective. It's not about like, I'm going to choose a recyclable material. It's all about like, how do I design the services around this solution too, right? So it becomes a little bit more holistic in a way. Then the second thing I would say, do not forget about social side of it. It's environmental impacts, environmental sustainability is very much well established at the moment. Like, if you go for circular economy, it's already kind of covering a lot of things. If you go for eco design principles, it covers a lot of things environmentally. But socially, question, like, why am I doing this? Right? Why am I really going through this? I'm just going through my notes, for example, just to give you a little bit of example. When I design something durable, right? Robust, it's not because I want to design a durable product. I want to create trust in the user, that they feel safe and trust, and they kind of feel like I'm doing something, working with something reliable. Because trust is the main thing, main core need that we all need. when you design something that is easy to understand, easy to use, it's not only that you're bringing accessibility and then improving its use by everybody else, but you're creating this feeling on the user that I'm competent. I am learning. I have ability to use this, and I'm competent, right? And again, it's the basic need in societies, in humans. Like a lot of things that we need in humans, in the basic needs, so that we are resilient in times of change. Like a lot of things like that you create, for example, it's very trendy, right? Like everything we design, we try to make it customizable. Like the user should be able to customize it. They should be able to configure it, right? Why do we do that? Because we want them to feel like they have influence on the end result. We want them to feel empowered. Again, like what is the main social need underneath it? And when it comes to this overarching concept, what it is, it's all about resilience. Like how do you create a resilient society, a resilient user who is able to trust in where they are, trust in the society, trust in the system, and also be very empowered, self-empowered, healthy, because your product doesn't give any harm, doesn't cause any harm, right? How do I feel healthy, trust, and self-empowered, and have a meaning, a shared meaning, shared idea of and transparency, so that I kind of come up with some strategies to cope with anything, any kind of crisis situation, any kind of problems that I will be facing.
If you have any recommendations for a book, documentary, movie, or artist that we should consider?
Well, for sustainability, regarding sustainability, it's all about systems thinking, right? Like we need to understand the interrelations within the ecosystem, so that we understand all these like impacts of certain things. How do they make changes? Then you need to look at the complex adaptive systems theory, and then understand that humans are complex adaptive systems, and it needs to be adaptive so that they can be resilient in phases of changes. And that's all about maybe the core sustainability. Then inspirations. I think my biggest inspirations are in terms of sociology. For example, I do like some sociologists. For example, Richard Sennett. He wrote this book about craftsmen, all about like why people do things just for the sake of the craftsmanship, like because they just love doing it. And then how do they work? There's another book that he wrote also, Together, which is again like all about teamwork, why people enjoy working together, doing things together, working for the same goal. And I do hear it a lot of times also when I'm doing interviews at the hospitals. I ask this question to nurses and physicians, for example: what's your motivation at work? The first motivation is helping people. The second motivation is the team. Like they love the teamwork. They are there. They do show up at work for the sake of the team that they work with. We are all social beings, and we are all the same everywhere. I think some artists, I love Laurie Anderson. For her age, I would say she's an amazing artist who always is up to date in terms of technology. And she has these talk series when she gave during COVID times. They're called Norton lectures, Norton lectures. They are very fun to watch. I would definitely recommend. And one thing, for example, I like about her is like she's never scared of playing with the technology. So that's very nice. I think as music, I would definitely recommend Alva Noto. He also has his artist name called Karsten Nikolai. his music and his art is very minimalist and very nice to just observe.
What's ahead for you personally in regards of projects or experiments or a vision that you are eager to explore?
I'm very much into this resilience idea now these days, like especially and your gut feeling, right? So coming back to that topic, I feel like we are going through times where I feel like I can't see the horizon. Like it's very difficult. Like it's climate change is one thing that we do have, the climate crisis, but now there are other things like the increasing defense budget in countries, for example. Like everybody has agreed on increasing their defenses to be prepared for something that is very scary, right? So my next project is how do I create a gut feeling and how do I create resilience in these times of uncertainty? And how do I create a very creative and inspiring environment for myself also? A personal challenge that I will be going through in the coming future is going to be my menopause. So not yet, but one thing that I know is that I read a neurologist book. Woman brain goes through different transformations in different stages in life. One is the puberty, the second one is pregnancy, and the third one is menopause. And it's all when the brain gets rewired and restructured itself. And then after the third stage, you stick with that brain for the rest of your life. So now my personal project is how do I really train my brain for the rest of my life to be the good one, the one that you want. To continue being creative, to continue being productive, but also very much insightful and having that gut feeling. So that's my personal project now. Yeah.
I find it that very inspiring and interesting that you are aware of this change, that you are already taking cards into action to say, okay, I know this is happening. I'm not going to be in the victim position. I'm going to be proactive and try to make the best out of it. And from before starting this chat, we were discussing already like the house that you are building in Umeå. Yeah. To me, that's already a huge step towards that you are taking.
Yeah, but I always see also house building projects, for example, house projects are very internal projects. They don't have any impact on the society that I live in, right? So it doesn't have much of this kind of like a give and take relationship with others. It's very much of an internal creative process. So it's a roof that you create for yourself, peaceful,
safe space.
Yeah. And then the next step is how do you step out of it, and what do you give and take? Right. So that's the next phase.
An idea that I have. When I was writing my thesis report, the reflections, I was writing, when you are not comfortable and you don't feel good with yourself, you are designing from a space of stress and anxiety and unbalance.
Yeah.
So I feel here what you're doing is this safe space for yourself. Like if you don't help yourself, who's going to help you? So you're building this nice space where you can recharge, rewire, and then filter whatever you were creating inside and then share it with the world. I think that is a very mindful way of approaching.
I agree with you. Like, I mean, we can't go back to tribal worlds, tribal times where we used to live in these small villages, and then we would have only 50, 100 people around us. It's not the same anymore. We can't create that unless we want to go for a kind of like a communal lifestyle, right? So what is the best you can do in this time frame is like you're saying, like making sure that you feel safe within in your environment, and then how do you then have a healthy relationship with your society, with your community.
Is there anything else that you feel like you wanted to address that we didn't cover?
I think we talked about before our interviews that how much things do take actually in reality. Like we think that, and I think it's nice to also mention it here too. Like we think that things do happen very fast, and then people just come up with the idea just overnight, and then they make these kind of like big changes just like this. It's not like that. Things do take time. Things do also need iteration, a lot of iteration, a lot of reflections, working on it. So it's good to remind ourselves that things do take time.
Yeah, we were covering this point from the examples like social media when people are posting. Yeah. And I have had this conversation with friends a lot. When designers are very well known, they really just post like a 3-minute sketch while having my coffee, and we know that took them at least 1 hour, and then they are creating this noise and this fake idea and visual of how you should be as a designer, how efficient you should be, and then it's just misleading people that are new into the field. Like, oh my God, and they just compare themselves and it feels anxiety. And it's not really adding value into the design environment, because from one side, the new ones, they feel like they are so behind the skills that they should have. And then the companies that they are hiring them and us, they are like, oh, if it's that easy, why don't you just do it like that? Like this person that was able to do it in 2 minutes. From there was the topic that we are talking there. And here I want to ask then, from your perspective, what do you think is that pushes us to sometimes be like that? Even at some point in our lives we did that, or the people that are still doing that. What do you think pushes people to share from that point of view, that things are so easy to make?
There is this terminology called liquid modernity. It's created by this Zygmunt Bauman's, a sociologist, and I really stick with that. We live in this world, things are in constant change. Nothing is stable, except for Umyo, maybe. And therefore we believe that we feel safe in there. But anyway, so this constant change is everywhere, and then we're in this scroll society now, right? Like everybody scroll, swipe, and we don't have time. Or we have the time, but we just have this feeling that there's no time to do anything. So we have to just get through these feeds very fast as possible. So then, of course, like it applies to our whole entire lifestyles, and then the way we also communicate with each other. Like you, even like in portfolio sharings, right? Like nobody has the time to go through like how did Gary go through the whole entire project process. Everybody just starts with the visuals. Everybody starts with the visuals. They do first look at the visuals, because we have also become very visually oriented, because that's the media that we are at the moment trained with. If our social media was training us on smell, we would have been very nose oriented people, but we're not. We're all eye oriented, because the media that we're using is visual media. And we are trained to be visual beings. And when you're trained to be visual, you don't have that time to digest verbal communication. And then it becomes like, oops, I did this within a second. Type of a communication also comes with it, I think. Yeah.
Then it's like a feeling of I'm sharing with the world that I'm capable of taking whatever challenge you want to throw at me, because I'm so fast. Yeah, like I want to feel efficient.
I am fast in inspiring others. I'm fast in creating things. I'm fast in dealing with problems. I'm fast in finding a new lifestyle for myself and changing it immediately, like understanding what I need to do, and I immediately change it. Like it's all about that. Like but then it would never be also the end, because we're constantly in change and in constant circulation. So the next time it will be a new thing. It's always that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's
I
always
think
a new thing. Yeah.
yeah, but I think we are getting sick of it slowly. So it might bring a different movement of maybe slow digestion or something like that, like the slow food movement, right?
Yeah.
Compared to fast food. It might
Yeah. It's
bring some change, but let's see. I don't know, because it's also not how the technology makers are selling their products, right? Because now AI is sold to us, or the campaigns, the promotions about AI is how fast it is and
yeah.
how fast it would make you, right? How efficient you would be working. Like if you use AI, you would be very efficient.
Yeah.
So again, it's constantly imposed on us that we should be efficient.
What I'm hoping is that with AI we get to be more conscious about what we create, because we will be more able to be fast in our process. Therefore, what I'm thinking is the mundane activities that are not that interesting, that they are more like can be automated, we could give it to AI, and then we can spend more time in the creative, in the meaningful part of the process, like really getting to talk to people, getting to understand the field, and then filter whatever AI is giving us, and then we will be able to just show to the world, if we are aware of that. This is the one idea that we came up with. So I hope it goes like that, that pushes people to be more creative, not feel restrained by the technologies. Because with AI now, you can, if you are not an artist, if you are not someone that is good at CGI or crazy visuals, now you can just ask AI to do them, and then you can spend more time into the meaning of the value of the project, and not just spend time doing a nice visual of shades and renderings and things that require money, time, and expertise, but more about the meaning behind the reason, which is understanding, being more empathetic to people, and really trying to define the problem and solve the problem in the best way.
It's a tool, right? It's a tool. It's not our target, or it's not our end result. It's a tool that we will be using. And I am from the generation which just started CAD modeling. Before my generation, it was all hand sketches and hand renderings. And then with my generation, we started CAD modeling, renderings, and such. And I do remember it was all about the limitations of the tool that you were using. Like a lot of people's designs were all about cubes. We were all designing cubes because the CAD modeling program was only able to make cubes, right?
With holes,
and then
and
slowly it became a little bit more organic. Like we started making some surfaces because Rhino came out, and then surface modeling was possible. Then slowly Grasshopper came out, and then this really complex, intricate, organic structures that we can build with 3D printing came out. Like it's all about tool, and it really shapes and affects how we create things. It actually has an impact on maybe not our imagination, but our ability to create, right? So so I'm dealing with this, for example, Midjourney right now. Like I'm trying to create this scene that I can use in a presentation, and I have the imagination of what I want to do, but at some point I'm limited. I'm limited with what the technology can offer me. And my outcome, my end result, the product that I provide as a presentation material is going to be the limitation of that technology. Unless I go out somewhere with a camera and then create a scene by myself and then start doing things analog again. Like it's all about that. Like the tools, they are amazing to use and you can craft it to certain level, but at the same time, they can be also our limitations.
Yeah, so with the tools that you have, how can you adapt that with the skills and the new tools? In the end, it's about the idea, how do you bring it to reality? Which in a way is a nice thing, right? Like it's helping you to
maybe you become versatile. Maybe you become versatile. You just make it kind of like a diverse cross-medium type of thing, right?
Yeah.
We should never forget that it's a tool.
I will be very happy to have this chat again. And is there a link or somewhere where people can contact you or take a look into what you are doing?
LinkedIn is there, but then also I have this onegeneration.se website, but it's very, very brief. Like I can maybe add more product examples there to like previous projects there.
Thank you so much for watching this interview with Ceren Bagatar. It was such a great time for us, we didn't even realize how fast the time went. You can even see how Ceren's sky changes from day to night, and still we tried our best to keep it meaningful so that you could learn and be inspired. You might have realized that the video ends up quite abruptly without a goodbye and thanks. Trust me, we did say goodbye, but the conversation kept going and going about different topics that I needed to trim it at some point. If you would like to contact her, you can find her on LinkedIn or through her website onegeneration.se. I will leave the links in the description. And again, if you enjoyed, please like the video, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who might also enjoy this conversation, because remember, sharing is caring. With love, Jerry. Bye.